Meaningful partnerships between parents and educators can truly prepare our children for success. Welcome to Conversations with the Education Enthusiast, a podcast dedicated to empowering you to be your child's best advocate. Now, here's your host, Dr. Balan Joseph.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Conversations with the Education Enthusiast. I'm your host, Dr. Balan Joseph, and I am so excited today to have a candidate for Pinellas County School Board join us, Caprice Edmond. I want her to have an opportunity to talk to you about who she is, why she's running, and hopefully to get you to vote for her, because I really think that what she's doing for our community, or will do for our community, will benefit our children. So Caprice, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for providing this space, sharing your platform.
Thank you, no problem. That's what it's for. So let's jump in. For the people who don't know you, can you share a little bit about your background and how you ended up in this place of running for school board?
Wow, there's really a long story to this, so I try to keep it short. I was born and raised right here in St. Petersburg, and I attended our public schools. My elementary school was Fairmont Park Elementary, and then I was bused to Clearview Avenue Elementary, which is no longer an elementary school, it's an adult school. And then I graduated from Gibbs High School. Go Gladiators!
Yes.
And I had the opportunity to take classes at SPC and go outside of St. Pete and attend school at UCF. But home is where the heart is, so I came back home, and that's where I earned my bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's degree in elementary education, a master's degree in educational leadership, as well as a certification in infant family mental health, all from USF St. Pete. Go Bulls!
All right.
So, I am grounded and invested in this community in District 7. Some of the work that I've done over the past 18 years specifically relates to children. Oftentimes I talk about the importance of whole child learning and meeting the needs of the child, because I know once we begin addressing basic needs, then our students will be able to thrive. I'll go on into that piece later on. But I've provided respite through PARC, which means I've babysat or provided childcare for students with disabilities, worked with youth in foster care as a transition living specialist and teaching life skills, things of that nature. I served as the interim program manager for Salvation Army's Sally House, as well as being a supervisor, youth care worker for several other group homes and organizations. And I'm proud to share that I've been a guardian ad litem for almost 10 years. And I think that that's extremely important, that we have education and child advocates on our school board. I also think that my lived experiences here in St. Pete will be invaluable to our school board as well. So those are just some of the things that keep me grounded in some of the work that I've done over the past 18 years. And of course, I'm an educator. I am the science lab, science coach, teacher, working at the school that I attended when I was a little girl. So if that doesn't show commitment to children and education, I'm not quite sure what else will.
Okay, so you said a guardian ad litem. So for those of us who don't know what that is, or who've never heard of that term, can you explain the importance of that?
Yes, a guardian ad litem is a court-appointed child advocate. And my role is to speak on behalf of the child and advocate for the child's wishes and what would be more suitable for that child. I've advocated in the courtroom, in schools as relates to educational issues and IEPs, as well as group homes. So that's a skill in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you being from St. Petersburg, being raised in the public school system, teaching in the school system, I'm sure there's a lot that you've seen personally being a student, but now being on the other end as the educator or the coach supporting educators. What are some issues that you're noticing in the school system that might have been here the whole time or might be new? What are some of the things that are standing out to you?
I've had the opportunity to listen, and I am a parent of children that attend our public schools. So there's a wide range of perspectives that I would be able to bring to the board. Some of the things that I've noticed as an educator is the top-down approach, that oftentimes we have people making rules and policies, but they don't know the true impact that's occurring in our schools.
Right.
And oftentimes principals who have ran schools for almost decades, their qualifications and skills to lead are often overlooked. As a parent, sometimes there's a gap in communication, and I've heard that from other parents. And I know that our community is concerned. They are concerned about the educational system and how our African American students are thriving, because we've heard about the proficiency rates and that our school grades are going up, but the reading proficiency is not. So we have to be transparent as it relates to the issues, and of course, celebrate success, but work towards improving proficiency.
How do you think we can do that? Working in the school system, myself for 15 years, always with Title I students, here with the Transformation Zone schools. I just had an interview with Laura Hines, literally just a couple hours ago. So if you see me in the same outfit, y'all, that's that's why. That's why. But we were talking about the same thing. We were talking about how kids are being promoted and they are even graduating from high school. But I saw firsthand seniors who could not read. My middle school, oh my gosh, it broke my heart to see so many children who were passing, like their grades, they did work, but they could not read, like basic foundational, fundamental breakdown of words, syllable by syllables. This is things that they were not able to do, but they were being promoted, and some of them were going to graduate from high school. So what do you think can be done in terms of moving the needle regarding literacy proficiency, but we also have struggles with math as well? What are some things as a board member you think you'll be able to do to remedy this really tragic issue that we have in our county?
So again, this is a huge issue, and there are many components to it. I think my platform is really aligned with improving academic success of all students. I think that it's important that we improve our family engagement and community partnerships. There are great things happening right here in District 7 that occur outside of school, that we can connect parents, connect students, and really build this collaborative partnership to ensuring that all children are able to learn and all children are receiving, getting their basic needs met. I often talk about the importance of starting early. We have to engage in early education. We know that, well, I know that early education is the foundation for success. We also know that students get held back in third grade, and they only can get held back 1 year based on having the POP and additional intermediate intervention plans in place. And our goal as a district shouldn't be to hold kids back or socially promote. Our goal as a district should be to provide the supports that's needed and continue to support those scholars. But as it relates to proficiency, we have to keep pushing standards-based, and our students are resilient. Many of them rise to the occasion. We cannot dumb down our curriculum and not hold those high expectations. So family engagement, community partnership, ensuring that we're holding high expectations, recruiting and retaining the best educators and support professionals. I think our educators are invaluable. We have support professionals that provide that remediation. So again, providing them with the tools and support that they need to help our scholars, that's going to benefit everyone. And I mentioned earlier, whole child learning. That is extremely important to me, because when we begin addressing the physical, social, emotional, mental health needs and providing those wraparound services, we will be able to tackle the disciplinary issues that we are experiencing. And we know that if our students are misbehaving, that's going to impact learning for not only that student, but all students. And I think it's important to talk about the process of providing services for students. Sometimes that process takes too long. And other times, for example, when we have students that are gifted learners, they aren't being screened appropriately or in a timely fashion, and they're falling along the wayside or falling behind. So this is why whole child learning is extremely important, because it's going to meet the needs of all children. It's going to address the disciplinary issues, increase family engagement, community partnerships, build recruitment and retention efforts as well.
So I agree. I believe that community engagement is vital. But one of the things that's always repeated from school to school, well-meaning schools, it's very difficult to get parents engaged. What are some of the things that the district can do to ensure that parents are, if they don't show up for the event per se, at least they are getting access to the information so support their child? So there are a number of reasons why parents might not come to the school board workshop or might not come to the school board meeting. That doesn't mean they don't care. They want the information, but sometimes there are barriers to keep them from accessing that information. So as a school board member, what is something that you would want to advocate for to ensure that parents who want to participate but who just can't can still feel like their voice is being heard on behalf of their child?
So what the district has done due to COVID-19 is, I feel like they have bumped up some of the methods that they're utilizing to inform parents, from hosting parent workshops virtually to sending text messages. Teachers are using Class Dojo, emails, the phone call systems, and things of that nature. I do think it's important that we work towards eliminating as many barriers as possible. And being a member of the PTA, we actually earned a national PTA grant where we learned what some of those barriers were and how to eliminate or help with some of those. And that's by providing childcare, providing meals, providing transportation, as well as food and a gift card. Those are things that we can accomplish by partnering with outside organizations, and it won't be a significant cost to the district to try and work those things out. So again, a community partnership is going to be extremely important. We can also print things out and put it on paper, provide this information on paper. I do know each family is different. What might reach or help a parent on paper might not work for a parent that would rather attend virtually. So again, having multiple options is going to be very important. I think the district has a great opportunity right now to find out what ways work best for parents, actually our schools and our teachers. Teachers are the main point of contact. So if little Johnny's mom would rather a text message with the upcoming whatever test dates or events coming, then you could utilize the dojo because it's similar to text messaging. So there are different ways. I know that during COVID-19, many guidance counselors and social workers were in their cars going to families. I'm not sure if that's really a sustainable effort, but I know through community partnership, that might be something that the district could do, meet parents where they are.
Right. Are there any other aspects of your platform that you want to expound on? I know right now the big thing is distance learning, obviously the pandemic, You have some parents who opt to do the distance learning, but who are finding it challenging for a number of reasons. And then you have the teachers on the other end who are dual teaching, distance learning, and I can't even imagine what they're going through right now. It's hard enough trying to teach a class of kids without having to be in front of a computer as well. We don't know when this pandemic is going to end, and upon election, you would more than likely be coming into this world that we're living in. So what are some of the things that you would like to see maybe the district continue to do, or maybe do a little bit better in terms of making this new way of life easier for the people who have to participate in it?
I mentioned this before at a different forum, that the district is going to have to really bargain, and the union is going to have to make sure that everybody's on the same page as it relates to the contract, because 52% of classrooms are having the dual or simultaneous learning, which is alarming because parents didn't sign up for that and educators not knowingly signed up for that. There is really no amount of technology that people can put in place to make this an easy and equitable education for all students. So what I would like the district to do is work towards finding other methods. We know that several teachers took personal leave because they wanted to teach virtually. And now we have an option for those teachers that wanted to teach virtually to work virtually. I do know that budgets and money comes into account because we have a lower FTE. So again, it's going to be looking at our budget and putting our priorities in place. Are we going to prioritize student learning, or are we going to prioritize trying to get a bang for our buck? I put our students first. Something that I would like to elaborate on is my emphasis on ending the school to prison pipeline. From the third quarter Bridge the Gap plan, we know that a disproportionate rate of African-American students are receiving out-of-school suspensions. That can end. That really can end. We know that implicit biases are thrown in our culture. We know that people don't know what they don't know. So what is seen as disrespect or any other thing could be blown out of proportion. And I think that it's important that we take a step back and we realize what is a teaching moment versus what is something that we really need to address. And again, I'm not saying that we should have students being disrespectful and things of that nature. I do know there is a fine line, which is why I would advocate for more equity training. I am an equity champion in the district, and I've been doing this work for the past 3 years. It's really important work to me. Culturally relevant or culturally responsive training is definitely invaluable. The school district recently announced that they're going to be piloting 20 schools to really focus or hone in on equity training. I think that every educator should receive this training. We have students advocating for diverse curriculum and explaining how they feel.
Yeah. And I think I'm glad you mentioned that, because the district does have their whole department where it's focusing on equity. Hillary Van Dyke is killing it, educating schools and going into the classrooms to coach and to mentor. Like, it exists in the county. It's been in the county for now a few years. But I wonder, and this is me talking as the educator and as the parent, but more so the educator. I think having the trainings is awesome, but the problem that I've found is that it's not mandatory. I think that what you just mentioned, every teacher, whether you have Black and brown students in front of you or not, this is training that you should absolutely be expected to participate in. I think my frustration is you have these dynamic people who are equipped and passionate about teaching about equity and having conversations about race and racism and how it shows up in the classroom and how it shows up in the curriculum and how it impacts our students on the receiving end of this stuff, but they are not required to take these trainings. They can show up for the first session and then they can decide this isn't for me. Do you think that this is something that the district has a responsibility to mandate, or do you think it should continue to be voluntary, that the teacher can decide whether they do or do not need this training?
I think collectively, the board would have the opportunity to talk about what should be mandatory. I also know that this is something that that could potentially be a bargaining issue, a bargaining as it relates to the amount of training people are receiving. Because as you mentioned, I don't think this is a one training and you're done. I think this is something that you'll have to do continuously. And something that I think I should also mention with equity training is learning more about our LGBTQ plus students and how to meet their needs. There is a high suicide rate between our LGBTQ plus students, and we cannot just discard them or not include them. So when I talk about whole child again, we have to really look at our African American students, Hispanic, Asian, because there are gaps between our Hispanic students as well. There are some studies regarding our Asian students and how they're thriving. The district really has the responsibility of educating all children and not to solely prepare them for the workforce. Our children are going to graduate and they have so much potential. And it bothers me when someone says that our schools are preparing children for the workforce. That's really offensive to me, but I'll digress.
Well, in our schools, I feel like a lot of them aren't even doing that. When you have so many kids who are not proficient in reading, who are not proficient in math, but who may very well earn their high school diploma, by the time they graduate and have that piece of paper, they are not equipped for the world that is waiting for them and the world that is very much technology driven, science and technology and engineering and math driven. So I feel like we are not, as a district, preparing our students, all of our students, the way that we have the resources to do so. So I love that you are somebody who does understand that and who would advocate for that once elected, because we need it. I think our district is very good at celebrating what we do well, but we're not very good at acknowledging what we don't do well. We'll make excuses for what we don't do well, or we'll look for flaws for the little inches that we've taken. But that's not enough or not good enough when you have so many children year after year who are going to fall through the wayside. One of the things I know that I've heard parents ask for is more opportunities for their kids to learn a trade, have some kind of skill that they will leave high school with, just in case college is not what they want to pursue. What are your thoughts on that? I know, like the P-Tech, for example, across from Gibbs, most of the students who attend there are white students. They're not Black students, yet it's within a predominantly Black community. How do we get more Black and brown kids in particular, or kids from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, to participate in the P-Tech or whatever trade options we have in our county, so that they have something that they can fall back on when they graduate?
I think it's important that we start exposing our children or our scholars to all of the career paths that are available. I mentioned as early as middle school, because many students don't realize that you can earn a lot of money by being a plumber. and
Yes.
or a
More
contractor
money
or
than
a
a teacher.
nurse. So, or a CNA. And these are all things that you could do by going through P-TECH. I think it's important that students know that there are other options besides college. Even if you don't want to go to a trade school, there are people that are making careers just out of using technology that they've learned on their own. So again, starting early, starting at middle school with that exposure. I know fifth graders, they go to Enterprise Village, so they get to see a little bit of what life would be like if they were employed at McDonald's or Century 21, or if they were the mayor and things like that, which is great. But really providing the opportunity for students to see all the careers and not solely on Great American Teach-In, that's going to be invaluable. Also seeing minorities in action. There are minority engineers, there are minority plumbers. We have to allow our students to realize that these things are obtainable. And I'm here for it. I'm looking forward to being that person that helps bridge that gap.
That's awesome. I think that's so powerful. And when you look at school systems globally, they are very intentional about bringing in people from the community, from the business workspace, to come in and actually build mentoring relationships with as young as elementary school, starting that what's the word? It's not internship. It's gonna come to me after I'm done interviewing.
Oh, apprenticeships?
Apprenticeship. They start something like that, just sowing those seeds really early. And I know that there's so much power in that. I know there's school systems in the state of Florida who are very good at bringing in the Lockheed Martins and the different tech organizations into the school. I know Azalea, they've partnered with, I forget the name of the tech company that's here. It's not Lockheed.
There's Jabil.
No, it's the other one. Is it Honeywell? I think Honeywell is Orlando. But there is similar, but they've started having a partnership where they'll come in and mentor the students. So I agree, there's a lot of power in that. And our kids don't know what they don't know. Adults don't know what they don't know, but our children, when you expose them to, especially people who look like them, who are in these professions, you spark a level of curiosity that could produce something really powerful. So I love that. Well, is there anything else you would like to share with us about when people can go out and vote, when early voting starts? We want to make sure they have all the information so that they can make sure they get out to the polls or mail in their ballot. So can you share that information with us?
Yes, October 19th, that is when early voting begins. So you can take your mail-in ballot to the polls, or you can show up to the polls yourself. And November 3rd is the last day to cast your vote. So on or before November 3rd, please vote Caprice Edmond for Pinellas County School Board District 7. I am easily accessible. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or you can visit my website, edmondforeducation.com.
Right. So any final thoughts that you want to take away or want us to take away when we're considering who we're voting for and why we should vote? And I just wanted to note, Caprice is not running against Laura, y'all. 2 different districts. She's in District 7, and District 7 is one of those districts that you can only vote for the person who's running in that district if you live in that district. So can you tell us what districts or what areas in our county that District 7 actually covers, and who you are running against, just so that they're clear?
Okay. So District 7, that includes Gulfport, Lellman, Kenneth City, most of St. Petersburg, a little bit of the Pinellas Park area, a little bit of the, depending on where you are. So basically South Pinellas. I am the only candidate with educational experience as well as lived and working in our schools. I'm the only candidate with public education experience and with children attending our public schools. As a lifelong child advocate and person that looks at public education, I feel that I'm the only candidate qualified for this seat. My opponent, Carl Nurse, does not have the same perspective or attributes and qualifications as I. So again, you can visit my website or reach out to me if you have any additional questions.
Yeah, thank you. And please do reach out to Caprice. She's accessible and she wants to be able to hear what you have to say. And I was happy to bring you on, Caprice, because I do believe that what you're trying to do is authentic and that you're trying to be an advocate for our community, for our children, for our families, and that is important. We need people on the board who will represent us well, but who also get it. It's one thing to have really nice ideas about what should happen in the schools, but it's very different, or I think difficult, to genuinely make sound decisions for the people you represent when you don't have boots on the ground. So boots on the ground are important, and you definitely have that. So thank you so much. I will be casting my vote for you. I casted my vote for you in the primary, and I'll be happy to do so in the general election. And I wanted my audience to be able to hear from you so that they can choose for themselves, but I wanted them to have the information to choose wisely. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. I know the campaign trail is a busy one, especially now. But I thank you so much for showing up and sharing your heart with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph.
Thank you for tuning in. Let's continue the conversation at theeducationenthusiast.com and via Instagram and Facebook at The Education Enthusiast.